Hi, I'm Jeff Ray, your host for Economic Outlook. Thanks for joining us each week as we discuss the region's most important economic development initiatives with a panel of experts. Manoba Madsman is the economic development arm of the Pokagon Band of the Potawatomi, created to diversify the tribe's financial interest and invest in companies that help grow the tribe's portfolio. This week, we'll learn more about the work they're doing to drive economic activity in the region. Manoba Madsman is an arm of the Pokagon Band of the Potawatomi that helps advance economic self-sufficiency and build wealth that will help positively impact the next 7 generations of the tribe. They've been involved in several key projects across the region. Today we're taking a closer look at their work and getting a glimpse on what's on the horizon for this important organization. Joining me for that conversation is Julio Martinez, the CEO at Manoba Madsman. Julio, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, we're glad to have you back. Thank you for being here. Maybe just a quick reminder to start. Tell us a little bit about what Manoba Madsman is.
So Manoba Madsman is the non-gaming investment arm of the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians. We make that distinction away from the word economic development, which is common, and it is a type of economic development, because tribes typically do economic development within the tribal government, as opposed to what we do, which is just core investment, private equity style investments. So that's kind of the distinction on who we are versus typical economic development at the tribe.
Great. And so tell us the origins. Manoba Madsman means what?
Right, and I wasn't part of the naming because I'm not tribal, but Mano in the Potawatomi language means good, roughly, and Bamatsan or Bamatsuan means direction, path or direction. So our tagline is the good path to good business. So that's kind of the origin. It's kind of a tongue twister for people to say that.
Yeah, it's over the years trying to learn how to say that. No, I was curious. So thank you about helping understand the origin. So the organization's been around for a little while. Talk to us, kind of give us a high-level overview of kind of some of the things that the organization's been involved in over the last, 12, 13 years, something like that?
Right, so probably started actually investing about 12 years ago at the very beginning. It was just a convenience store that's by the Dowagiac Casino, a C-store called Bentry. And then we started up a first architecture firm, 7 Generations Architecture Engineering. It was originally located in Benton Harbor. But really wasn't until the acquisition of D.A. Dodd, which was 2015, that we started to expand acquisitions and expand the portfolio to grow to where it is today and hopefully continue to grow.
Yeah, so talk about those portfolio then. You mentioned a couple of the key companies, but how many companies or what kind of industries are ultimately are you invested in?
So right now the portfolio has what we call verticals, investment verticals. So we have a vertical in professional services, which for us are architects and engineers. And there's probably 6 operating companies and a number of other companies that are specific purpose vehicle companies for specific, primarily federal contracting. Our next vertical is kind of professional services, but is morphing, is the acquisition of Cressey Commercial Real Estate here local. So we acquired 51% and controlling interest in 2023, after the first quarter of 23. And that's also professional services. They do brokerage and property management. We've added some elements of construction there, which we wanted to, which complements our architects and engineers. So this is the kind of synergistic effect. We have our construction HVAC mechanical company, the largest in our portfolio, our largest company, D.A. Dodd, headquartered in Rolling Prairie here in Indiana. But we have a couple of locations, which we added one location last year in 24 with an acquisition in Mishawaka, and then one in Lafayette, Indiana, that we also just added a new building and expanded there. Then we have 3 manufacturing companies, excuse me, I almost left them off. That's in another partnership called Mano Drek. Drek are our partners. And then we have a number of real estate holdings. That's kind of how we met the Cressey ownership team, which invested with us, and we invested with them at the Hotel Elkhart and Benton Harbor Flats. And we have a couple of other real estate holdings in the portfolio.
Yeah, so quite an impressive portfolio in a lot of different industries. So we mentioned in the opening this seven generations idea. Dive in, help us understand that a little bit better.
Right, so the tribe, when they put Minot together, it was with the understanding that we were investing for 7 generations. And over the years, I've learned a little more about how that looks. Is it 3 generations back and 3 generations forward? Just keeping in mind the past and the future. In any case, for the investment side, it's a model we call the patient investor model. So we are not transactional on our operating companies. We buy them, we grow them. It allows us to do things that are really important. Instead of trying to transact these companies, we do the opposite. We buy them, we grow them organically invest in them and expand them. We like to keep the workforce, so we don't come in and chop people and fire them. We try to keep the workforce that's there. We try to grow the reach. And that long runways gives us a time to invest and grow in different directions, so we can withstand the dips. We don't have shareholders yelling, we need profit today. We're profitable across the portfolio, but dropping to the bottom line every dollar is not our focus necessarily. We want to take that long slope upward in investing for the rest of the tribal generations.
So over time you've acquired, look forward a little bit, you're still in this mode of growing and diversifying opportunities. What is it that, I'm not asking you to look in the crystal ball, but talk about the future and when Minot might be involved in acquiring other companies.
Well, we're continuously looking. So we source, we call that sourcing. And we're looking in the professional services sector, which we've grown tremendously. We're looking to add architects and engineers, primarily engineers. So A&E firms, bigger E than A, more engineers. We've won a lot of work, and where we see we win work and we have to subcontract it out, we look to acquire and expand there. So we have the work capacity, contracts. Now we need more self-performing work, so that obviously drives more profit and margin. So we're looking there. We're always looking to add to the portfolio across the whole portfolio. And then, we try to look out and into the future and figure out what we would call a new platform, which is an additional vertical outside of the current, but that complements. And one thing we've looked at and talked about a lot is the utility sector, which is, I believe, ripe for growth. I mean, the utilities are post-World War II infrastructure, and the power demand is becoming so great with AI and all the new things coming online. So that would nicely fit with our engineering potentially, and maybe some of the construction services. So we're constantly looking to expand the portfolio, and that's by acquisition. But again, I'll mention organic growth because it's important to us. Some of the investment is organic, so that's spending money on our existing companies to do different things, like what we talked about briefly at DA Dodd, expanding into sheet metal, which wasn't their core competency. So that's an investment of people and equipment and so forth that then lets them self-perform that, as well as prefabricating piping, which is a big deal, which creates great efficiencies, which is done in Lafayette, Indiana, where we had some expansion as well. So those aren't the shiny things that the acquisition ribbon cutting kind of thing, but it's the hard work that continues to grow the companies.
Yeah, it is exciting to see, and obviously many of those companies are familiar and doing some great work in the community, so I appreciate you diving in a little bit. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation. We're going to go out into the field. We'll be right back.
I am downtown Mishawaka, Indiana, and joined today by a good friend of the show, Chris Fielding. Chris, thanks for being back with us.
Thank you for having me. It's always a
Today,
pleasure.
we're a little bit of a unique space for our interview, as our viewers, I hope, can see. We are not only in one of your construction zones, this also happens to be your headquarters.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about this building. This is the old Mishawaka Police Department. For those of our viewers who haven't heard the news, it's also now Cressy's headquarters. How did that come to be?
The city had the opportunity to buy the Liberty Mutual building when they vacated the downtown, which freed this building up. For us as community builders, we always look to solve problems for municipalities and address things that are needed in the community. So for us, it was a logical opportunity to go from being a tenant in another space to owning our own building. also saving the city $285,000 from tearing it down. So we spent the last year and a half turning it into our corporate headquarters, and as you can see, we have a few spaces available for some other tenants to join us right here on the beautiful Central Park Riverfront.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know that our viewers and our cameras are doing a great job of catching the view, but it is spectacular. The St. Joe River is such a big part of our community. It winds right through here, so great choice, smart choice. That choice of changing your headquarter locations came with a change in ownership for Cressey Commercial. But before we get to that little tidbit, because it's really the star of the show today, is your corporate ownership and partnership with Manoba Modson. But tell us a little bit about Cressey Commercial, because so many of our viewers are probably familiar with Cressey and Everett, but Cressey Commercial is a little different.
Yes, very different. So Cressey and Everett was actually started in 1948 by Ed Everett and George Cressey Sr. Ran that for many years, developing projects in the community like Winding Brook and others. Cressey Commercial Real Estate really separated from Cressey and Everett, who we still have wonderful relationships with. In about 1980, as the evolution of University Park Mall was developed in partnership between the founders of Cressey Commercial Real Estate and the DeBartolo Group. That then led to all the development on Main Street and Edison Lakes Corporate Park, and we were a tenant, long-term tenant in Edison Lakes Corporate Park for 25 years.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to now move downtown, follow the trend, and have our own space that we own and redevelop another community asset was very intriguing for us.
So your company is, while we say Cressey Commercial, and a big part of it is commercial real estate services in Mishawaka and other communities like Mishawaka, there are other parts of the business, such as property management, and you were telling me before we went on air, there were some others.
Correct.
What about Manoba Modson, your other business lines, made that partnership so important?
Manoba Modson, as an extension of the Potawatomi band, they have so many different needs. And for Cressey having a conversion and construction company, an HVAC division, a plumbing company, all licensed, they have so many real estate needs, whether they're providing clinics or daycares or schools or housing for the elders in the tribe. It was a natural extension for us, and our values align. We're on our 78th year, 4th generation coming up, and the tribe thinks long term. They think 7 generations ahead. So our values really align, that you don't necessarily always do things that are about the money. Sometimes it's just for the benefit of others. And it may be that it's the benefit of our next generation that comes into the company. So for us, it was a natural relationship. As you know, because you've done our interview, we're also already partnered with Manoba Modson and Julio Martinez in the City Center Lost Project that you did a show on in Benton Harbor.
Right.
Also the Hotel Elkhart in downtown Elkhart.
Yep.
2 historical transformations, both that won awards. So for us, this was just a continued partnership.
Yeah, and when we're talking about the tribe and we talk about their impact on our community, we have done episodes at their other businesses, including the casino and the casino project. And one of the things that always strikes us, and I think strikes me here, is that they are so good about reinvesting in our community because they are members of our community, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, as you look to what's next for Cressey Commercial and that partnership, we were talking before we went on air. You're actually doing national projects, et cetera, aren't you?
Absolutely.
That you couldn't have done without that partnership?
No. So next for Cressey Commercial Real Estate, we acquired an office in Indianapolis. So we now extend all the way from Bloomington to southwestern Michigan, pretty much state line to state line, Ohio to Illinois. So we're providing brokerage and construction and maintenance and management services all over in central and northern Indiana. We're also partnering with a company that we've taken a minority stake in, a service-disabled veteran company out of Virginia. So we're doing projects for the federal government, we have a cemetery expansion project going in Oklahoma, Nebraska. We're really expanding our horizons. Much of that, the tribe and their businesses are so good at this. They're experts in providing a top-level service in their extension through, whether it be DA Dodd, 7Gen A&E,
Sure.
WBK out of Chicago, Steelhead Engineering. We are now a part of a family of integrated companies. And in a time where you have such inflation in construction costs and labor, when you can vertically integrate and provide most of your services in-house, it makes you that much more competitive.
Yeah. Well, good job. Congratulations. Good luck with the space. Smart move, I think, on all fronts. Thank you guys for tuning in. I think this has been another example of how our local family of companies and businesses, going as far back as hundreds of years, stay committed to our area and utilizing resources and partnerships to help further our economic goals.
Thank you, George. Back in the studio, continuing our conversation with Julio Martinez, the CEO at Manoba Modsman. Julio, thanks for sticking around to continue this great conversation. So, Julio, you've talked a little bit about this investment side and kind of growing the portfolio of the Pokagon Band and stuff, but I also think of the Pokagon Band as important contributors. Talk about this pathway piece, the opportunities for folks in the tribe to work in some of these companies.
Yeah, that's a great question, and a really important part of our strategies for all these companies. We seek to find and place Pokagon citizens that have the right skill set in order to be part of these companies. Ultimately, our goal is to have these companies run by Pokagon citizens, if at all possible. So we have a program that was started a while back called Pathways, actually, that creates a pathway. If a tribal citizen is interested in a particular career, we'll help them. We provide internships, paid internships if they're already in college. And as we grow the portfolio, it's becoming even more important. So when we go to different cities for conferences or things, there are Pokagon citizens across the country. So it's a unique place. We try to find the Pokagon citizens that are out there and attract them. I think as we get bigger, we're getting more eyes on the companies that the tribe has and more interest from outside. Remote work has helped. So even if they're remote, sometimes they can work, especially in professional services, architects and engineers. It's fairly easy to collaborate even if they're remote. And we've won projects across the country. So that all that adds to the ability to attract tribal citizens that have moved away and found employment elsewhere, attract them back to the tribe and help them find a place within our companies. So that's a big part of what we do.
Sure. You shared off air like a success story, recent intern.
Right.
Do you mind sharing that?
No, I won't use her name, but
Yeah, that's
so
good.
she's a Pokagon citizen that was in engineering school and found out about our companies. And for her senior year internship, she came down here and worked at one of our companies, the Steelhead Engineering Company in Kalamazoo, and loved it. Loved the area too. So she didn't live in the area, but she came back, loved the area, and upon her graduation, we made a job offer to her, and she's accepted. So she'll be starting here fairly soon in one of our companies. So a great success story. So our hope is she'll continue to grow professionally and start taking some leadership roles. Actually, the Steelhead Engineering is run by a Pokagon citizen, which we found at a career center. We didn't know he was working somewhere else, and we were able to recruit him.
Another great story. Thank you for sharing that. Julio, I want to shift a little bit, but you mentioned sort of, like I think of your work probably initially a little more regional, kind of Michigan, Indiana-ish, but your tentacles are kind of spread a little bit across the country. Just talk about sort of growing out beyond sort of the Midwest here.
Right, and the strategies that have developed at the operating companies have led to that. So it's not we purposely looked for it, but as we win contracts across the country and are looking for contracts across the country in different phases, even at Cressy Commercial, we have, like I said, a construction division that's growing. We partnered with a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, and we've won some projects with them that are across the country. These are VA projects. So we're looking to push into geographies that are closer to tribes, maybe the Southwest or the Pacific Northwest, where different tribal organizations are more. We also have an architect and engineering firm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is also, obviously, Oklahoma's a big tribal state. So, yeah, we're spreading geographically as business calls.
Right. And so let's come back locally. So because as you're growing nationally, you're also involved in some pretty important stuff here locally. So you mentioned like DOD and some others. Talk a little bit about some of the maybe the work on important projects that people might know of here that, or maybe just even clients.
Right. Right. So DA Dodd here locally, mostly Indiana, a little bit into Michigan, but mostly Indiana, headquartered in Rolling Prairie, Indiana. We just acquired a company, OJS Building Solutions, last year, which was both an acquisition and an organic growth opportunity. DA Dodd's won the big AWS project along with a lot of others. So it's a big project. They do continuing work for a long time with Notre Dame, even prior to our acquiring DA-DOT. But we've expanded our work at Notre Dame and Indiana University. Then DOD goes down all the way to Lafayette, Indiana. So we just acquired a new building there, a bigger building, their facility they were outgrowing. There they do prefabricating piping, which is really important. And they prefabricate there for the entire region that we work in. And they do a lot of work at Purdue University. So we're really busy across and doing projects in the area. So while the architects and engineers are more visible across the country, the other companies are here in Indiana and in Michigan.
You know, it's exciting, especially when you think of like ADUS and Notre Dame and some of those. We've talked about a lot of those projects here, and to know that sort of you're on the ground working, doing some of those things, I think is great. Let's just talk from employer standpoint for a second. So you own these companies. When we're sitting here with other not you own this, the Minot owns these, and you obviously, but finding, attracting top talent to these companies is perhaps the greatest challenge they're all faces. Talk to them a little bit about just sort of culture, working at a Minot company, you know, kind of the, make the pitch to those folks watching this why they ought to come work at one of these Minot companies.
Yeah, you're right. That's two-phased because it's not only attracting, it's keeping.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So for those who might want to come work for our companies, I'm basically, they're coming from somewhere else, right? So I think what makes us special, and we talk about this and we integrate the tribal culture into it. So we do something called enculturation continuously at our companies. We go visit, I go with one of my staff members, and I go over the portfolio and the opportunities so they realize they're part of a bigger organization than just the company they work with, and we're all a family, and it benefits the tribal nation. And then we talk about what that means, where the tribes come from in the region, and it's a great way to tell people that when you come work for our companies, if you're an architect or engineer, or if you're a real estate professional, or if you're a plumber or pipe fitter, you're part of a bigger organization with a tribe and a tribal culture, that it's different. Again, back to, we're long, patient investors. We're not just turn and burn.
Is this similar? Do other tribes across the country have a Minot Bomadsman? Is this unique to what the tribes do?
That's also a great question. So I've been working for tribes right out of college, and you can see I'm a kind of older guy. I'm about to turn 60. So I've spent a lot of time, all the way from casinos, which really changed the landscape and the tribe's abilities even to do other businesses because of the casino addition. And this is becoming the new strategy for tribes in economic development and investing and doing what Minot Bomadsman. I believe, of course, I'm partial here. I believe Minot is doing it better than almost all of the tribes that I've seen. But it is the new thing, and other tribes are doing things like we're doing, going away and diversifying away from a single revenue stream, realizing that can be impaired.
Yeah, let's touch quick on two past projects, but two that helped transform kind of communities. So, for example, Minot was involved at Hotel Elkhart, for example, which was, a building that had long been, how do we make this happen? And without Minot's partnership, that might still be sitting empty today. Or in Benton Harbor at like the City Center lofts or some of those. So talk about just maybe those investments that you did historically and what attracted you to those.
Yeah, they were important. Both of those investments have deep ties to the tribe as well. So all this is ancestral lands to the tribe, and when we can do something that's a profitable venture that partners with the community and showcases where the tribe, originated from, and it still has deep ties to it, it's important. So Hotel Elkhart was, both of those projects at City Center Lofts started, and then the pandemic hit. So they were incredibly challenging projects. But it's beautiful. Hotel Elkhart is beautiful. I remember opening it, and Rod Robertson, the mayor there, and Elkhart was great, and got a lot of support from the city of Elkhart. So that was important for us. So having the cities help us is really important to make the project successful. We had people coming in from Elkhart saying, I had my wedding here up at the ballroom. I had, so and so. So it's fulfilling. So it's an investment. It's also a tangible investment, which is a different thing. So when I'm telling the story to tribal citizens, I'm talking about architects, engineers all over the country. They can't see and touch them. They can go see and touch and stay at Hotel Elkhart. And the same thing in Benton Harbor at City Center Lofts. So the Cornerstone Alliance helped us greatly there, the nonprofit, which I'm on the board for Cornerstone Alliance. They did a great job in helping us do that. We're just right next to them. We took that building that was, again, dilapidated, but an important part of the kind of resurgence of that area they're trying to do in that art district in Benton Harbor. So it was an important part. A lot of our tribal citizens lived in both of those areas.
Yeah. Great, terrific. It really down to our last minute or so. Just kind of final word. Maybe recap a little bit of Minot and kind of what's on the horizon for the future.
Yeah, we're excited. The portfolio, it's kind of it's creating its own inertia as it gets bigger, expanding. It's hard to find people. We've been adding people slowly. We added a communications piece, which has helped greatly get the news out and inform the tribal citizens of what we're doing, better inform them. As I mentioned, we're looking at different areas potentially to expand the portfolio. So we grow organically by our existing businesses and then looking for other opportunities. So we're out there looking.
Great. Julio Martinez, CEO, Manoba Mazwan. Julio, thanks again for we're glad you're here. So appreciate that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
That's it for our show today. Thank you for watching on WNIT or listening to our podcast. Find Economic Outlook at WNIT.org, YouTube, or on most major podcast platforms. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. I'm Jeff Ray. I'll see you next time.
This WNIT local production has been made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.